Hi, everybody. We're excited to be here. My name is Tracy Sweeney. I'm here representing the Distinguished Alumni Group that is presenting the award this evening. I've been told I've got about 2 minutes, so I'm allowed to say whatever I can fit onto a Post-it note and keep it short. So I wanted to welcome everybody to the lecture this evening. Saundra is our 24th winner of the award, and we're very excited that you're joining us as of this evening. With the masks on, I can't really be sure. I see at least one of our past winners group. If you can kind of wave if you're one of the DAA past winners. I see a couple. All right. We've got a couple more online that will be watching the lecture as well. We're excited to be back here in person because, of course, last year David had to give his lecture kind of through online only. And we're excited to be able to do mixed presence and hopefully next year to have even more. So Saundra, thank you for kind of dealing with that mixed presence aspect of the lecture. And we're very excited to hear it both online and in person. I wanted to make sure for anybody who's not as familiar with the Distinguished Architecture Alumni Award, that you understand what we're recognizing Saundra for this evening. There are 3 criteria for the award. One is personal achievement, your architectural achievement. So the things that you do at work, it may be design, it may be project management. It could have anything to do with impact to the architectural profession. So that's criteria number 1. Criteria 2 is involvement with LTU. So continuing to have engagement here with the university. Criteria 3 is involvement with the community. And in order to be one of the award winners, you have to show kind of a really strong proficiency in all 3 of those arenas. So I think you'll see that tonight when Saundra kind of talks about her involvement in the work that she has done up to this point. We enjoy being here because of the strong alumni and student link. And for anybody that's completing their undergrad program, looking to go into the graduate program, stay tuned for some updated information. We're hoping that at this lecture next year, we'll be able to present you with our first annual DAA scholarship recipient as well. So I'm kind of putting that out there for the first time in public this evening. That's something that we're working towards, and we're hoping to be able to select that first recipient or someone who is going into the LTU graduate program from the undergraduate program. So more to come on that. I think kind of closer to the end of the year, there'll be some information available. And I think that gets me to the end of my Post-it notes. So we promised to give some time again, the whole alumni student link. It's a great opportunity for us to update our alumni and students, of course, with some of the things that are going on in the university community. So I'll be back after the lecture to kind of moderate some of the questions and answers. Make sure you come up with some good questions for Saundra. But with no further ado, I'd like to introduce Steve Carl.
Is this a camera here?
No, it's share screen.
So there's no camera. Okay.
No, but they can hear it.
We think, we hope. Well, it's always, Tracy's always difficult to follow. She's like, does this professionally. If anyone saw her from the celebration of architecture. Yeah, it's great to be here. It's great to be in person. It's great to have some of the distinguished alumni here and hopefully joining us. Tonight is a celebration of the alumni. So much of what we do is made possible by alumni, and we've been strategically working to engage our alumni more and more. So the more alumni that I meet, I hear about all the amazing things that they're doing, and they continue to push us and force us or challenge us to up our game. And usually that's because they want to hire all the best students. And so they know where all the best students come from. A couple of updates just to share, like on a couple of different fronts within the college. So recently within the college, we've been able to purchase drones. We've been able to purchase 3D scanners and VR headsets. This is in a goal to get the newest technology in the hands of our students. And not only are our students current with these new technologies, they're able to incorporate these new tools and to continue to stay nimble within their workflow. On an enrollment perspective, and for me, the enrollment is a big part of what we do because it talks about the importance of design. We have our largest incoming freshman class in the last 5 years. And so this is something that's important for us. We continue to grow our online graduate program with our track 3 students, which are mid-career students that have decided to come into architecture. They do this online and they do this part-time, and they're all over the country. And that's a program that's growing for us. It brings a different voice, brings maturity, and it often brings diversity. We are also trying, one of our initiatives is to increase diversity in the profession, which is something that I'm sure Saundra's going to talk about tonight as well. We've got a partnership with the Detroit Public School System, working with the Randolph Technological Center to be able to increase diversity in that. All of these initiatives require financial support, and our alumni support us through scholarships, partnerships, and volunteering. Private institutions like ours don't have the financial support that many of our competitors do, but we are able to continue to stay current and to keep pushing what we do. The group of distinguished architecture alumni who are responsible for the award being given tonight have worked tirelessly, both to restore the Affleck House, which is an incredible resource for the college. And as Tracy mentioned more recently, this group of engaged alumni have worked to create a new scholarship to support our students. The distinguished alumni serve as models in their communities. They serve as models professionally, and they serve as models of alumni and role models for our students in the way that they constantly give back. So we welcome them here tonight. We welcome all of you, and we look forward to, I'm introducing Chris Stefani, who will do the next introduction. Thank you.
Here at LTU, we clearly like our introductions. Hello, my name is Christopher Stefani, and I am the chair of the College of Architecture and Design's Architectural Alumni Cabinet. It is my distinct pleasure this evening to introduce Saundra Little, FAIA, lead AP, principal at Quinn Evans Architects, director of diversity and inclusion with NOMA, and most recently, LTU's College of Architecture and Design's newest distinguished architecture alumnus. Saundra earned her Bachelor's of Science in Architecture and Design from LTU in 1994, and soon after completed her Master's of Architecture degree in 1998, a true Blue Devil through and through. Professionally, Saundra is an accomplished architect who is highly regarded for her planning and design work in the urban realm. Her career spans some 22 years working at well-known firms such as Ghaffari, Hamilton Anderson, co-founding the Centric Design Studio and being a principal there for nearly 18 years, and most recently, a principal at QEA. Saundra's work and portfolio reflects the diversity of the neighborhoods that she champions, with successful cultural, institutional, educational, and commercial projects of all sizes. Her passion and commitment to revitalization, adaptive reuse projects consistently demonstrate her respect and sensitivity to the unique architectural heritage of the local neighborhood she champions. In addition to her professional work, Saundra is a champion for the community. I myself was lucky enough to first meet Saundra as an architectural student at a NOMA conference in New Orleans, where she has always played a major role in the promotion of community-centric design, in addition to increasing access and prevalence of minority individuals in this profession. Saundra is a founding member of the advisory board for Design Core Detroit, in addition to Noir Design Party, an organization created as a response to the lack of awareness of African-American architects' impact in shaping the landscape here in Detroit, throughout the state and regionally. I could go on for hours about Saundra's accomplishments and what a wonderful woman she is and what a wonderful mentor she's been to all of us, but I think I won't waste any more of your time. And please welcoming Saundra Little, our next 2021 Distinguished Architecture alumnus.
This is the photo opportunity with the hardware for anybody that needs to get that. Yeah, absolutely.
That's not my soul. That's not what, I'm not the only one doing this.
Are you going to This is what you miss when you're online.
Well, now I'm not taking a
That's all right. Saundra's got her own photographs. Congratulations. Wow. Well, thanks, everyone. I was telling Chris earlier today, I was a little nervous because I said, I haven't spoken in front of people in a while. I've been talking on screen. So this is different to be back in front of a crowd. So thanks everybody for coming out today. I really appreciate it. Thank you to the Distinguished Alumni Board who, one person I know that's not here, Ben Tissio, was on me like, look, you need to submit. So I want to thank Ben especially too, and thank you to Dean Carl, and we appreciate everything that I appreciate everything LTU has done for me. I really have to say it's been an integral part to my career. I have to give thanks to my family, my son and my daughter are here, Indigo and Wallace. And also, actually, one of my sorority sisters are here. Actually, I have a slide from one of my sorority sisters on the slide here. But yeah, I just like I said, definitely want to say thank you. And as you see, I wear a lot of hats. I have a lot of titles. One of them I did want to clarify, I am for NOMA, the National Organization of Minority Architects, I am the Midwest Vice President, so I'm in charge of the Midwest region and helped the organization with the chapters that are in the Midwest area. So it was like really good for me coming from the NOMA Detroit chapter to be able to step up to the board on a national level and serve in this role. So okay, I guess I'll get started. So advancing is another thing.
There we go.
So if I was gonna give a title to this presentation, I would say it's designed by history. I ended up just being a lover of history, and some of that came from LTU as well. And like I said, the work I'm doing, documenting the work of African-American architects. And it's showing up in the projects, especially the urban revitalization and adaptive reuse projects. So the first thing I asked you is like, what is this number, right? It's 166,242. Does anybody know what that number is? Licensed architects. So that's the number of licensed architects in the United States. It doesn't include like reciprocity or anything like that. It's straight licensing. The number below that, 2,276, are licensed architects that practice, they're licensed in the state of Michigan, not including reciprocity, but those that are directly licensed in the state of Michigan. So I put this number up here to say, when I stepped foot on Lawrence Tech's campus, I didn't know the numbers for African-American architects in the profession when I started. So I'll put the year out there that I started. I'm getting old now. I started at Lawrence Tech in 1989 in the pre-college architecture program is what really got me. I started in my last year of high school coming to Lawrence Tech. Didn't know a lot about architecture, so I wanted to find out about it as soon as I could. So I really appreciate that program, and that's kind of made a difference for me in having youth involved in programs that I work with, because it made a difference in me picking this as a career choice. So still getting adjusted, sorry. I will speed up. So there are only, in the whole United States, there are only 532 licensed African-American women architects. There are, in the state of Michigan, there are only 14 licensed African-American women architects. These are the ones you see on the screen. The 14 that I know about, 3 of them come from Lawrence Technological University. And the first licensed African-American architect woman is Linda Haight. She is the one with the blonde hair in the upper corner. She's the first licensed African-American woman architect in the state of Michigan. She's a Lawrence Tech grad. A lot of people don't know that, right? And you'll be hearing some big news about her coming out of AI at Grand Rapids really soon. It's just things that I didn't know. I didn't know I would become a history maker in doing this as a profession. I am the second licensed African-American woman to become a fellow within the state of Michigan. The first one was Dr. Sharon Sutton, and she was actually not a native Michigander, but I'm the first native Michigander to become
FAIA, so just still making history and was not planning on that happening. In my college years here at LTU, I had great influence from the faculty. So many to name. And so like, you see this list of pictures and Steve Ross is like the only one who's still here. So when I went to school, he must have been like 10 when he was practicing, when he was starting out. But they all had different effects on me during my profession, my class years here. But one of the big things that was taught here that I didn't realize when I started out was history and culture was kind of an underlying theme of the curriculum at that time. And I ended up having Carl Greimer, which is one of the past deans at LTU, as a professor. So he introduced me to so many things people would not believe. I went to a predominantly white university and I learned about Idlewild. That was one of our projects. I had learned about the Greystone Jazz Museum. It's just so much history that it came across. Gordon Bugby was our cultural history professor, and man, that guy lost me in Chicago, how fast he walked. He knew everything. And he taught the class from his personal slide collection. So it was just like, just things that it was such a rich education here. And definitely, and I spoke with Bob Furon. He left me a message. I left him a message. We're trying to catch up. Was one of my professors. I worked here on campus in the student offices, and him and Nancy Furon were great mentors to me. I worked here before I even left to work in the office. I was working on campus, so I'm pretty much all the way through. So student life, I pledged my sorority here. My sorority sister Levine is here. I enjoyed the life of, we had AIS, we had NESB. We didn't have a NOMA chapter. I think that I got that later on, but just definitely I got both my degrees here. It was definitely a rich experience and friends that I kept for my entire life. One of my key friends, which I made sure I put a slide in, so I will not forget to thank him. He is the co-founder of Centric Design Studio with me, Damon Thomas. He is in the audience this evening. I thank you, Damon. So for students in the audience, you never know who you're going to meet in your class. So he was a student here at Lawrence Tech. This is where we met 30 years ago. So I've known him ever since we went to school here, and we started our business together. And he is with me at Quinn Evans. Our firm was acquired, and we are both the Quinn Evans architects now. So it's just beautiful experiences connecting back here. Chris kind of briefly went through my resume. I just want to say I have a couple of projects in here, and they're mostly focused on adaptive reuse. I have worked on new construction projects, but I think I found my sweet spot of what I like to do.
So I passed on the information, said I got a response back, but then people started emailing that national fruition.
I worked on new construction projects. I worked
Information
on
about the clear.
schools and daycare centers, but that's not kind of what I focus on here in this presentation. So I want to start out with NOMA. This is an exhibit actually from my fellowship application, and I started to look at this like, what have I done in NOMA? And it was like I started with like a 10-year span. I was like, oh my goodness, right? So much stuff. But I like I said, we didn't have a NOMA chapter here. I attended my first NOMA conference in 2003. And after that, I was just like, I felt like I connected with more minorities than I had ever seen at one time. And it really hit me when I started working with the organization. I became a president for the NOMA Detroit chapter, worked with, I was the historian for the NOMA Detroit chapter, did the Lifetime Achievement Award for Roger Mardrum. The big thing that actually ended up happening is after my presidency, I became the conference co-chair to bring the National NOMA Conference here in Detroit in 2012. And from that, the organization that I co-started with Karen Burton, who was another great fan, Noir Design Party, documenting the work of African-American architects. We started that after getting heavily involved in NOMA and then not seeing the voice and the work of minority architects represented. So that conference was actually here on LTU's campus in the other auditorium. We actually came here for our whole Thursday event, our host chapter party, and had a panel discussion here and everything. So definitely stayed involved with Lawrence Tech, and all of the people from NOMA were just totally surprised. We went to go see the Affleck House. We saw Cranbrook. They were just like, it's just, you know, Detroit is great. We can't wait to come back. It was just wonderful. And then through the years, just to see Lawrence Tech and NOMA come together, it was just the sweet spot for me, right? So it was like when the Design Center opened in the LTU spot at Woodward and Willis downtown, and NOMA's office being right in that Design Center, that was just like, I was at the ribbon cutting, I was at everything. I was like, this is so awesome. So to see those two worlds come together meant so much. To see the LTU chapter start here for NOMA while I was president of NOMA Detroit, that was just mind blowing. And to see how big NOMA Detroit is now and how active NOMA students are, it's just amazing to see how it's changed in Michigan for minority architects, more coming into the profession and creating that pipeline. This was actually taken in 2019, the last NOMA conference in person before the pandemic. So completed projects, I'll go through a couple real quick. Some of them you see flashing on the screen. The Arab American Museum is in Dearborn on Michigan Avenue in Schaefer. So this is an aerial photo of Michigan Avenue and Schaefer. So this is Michigan Avenue, if you can see my cursor. This is Schaefer. And the Arab American Museum was an old R.G. Lee furniture store. So it really got to me to see that building only on two fronts be turned into a museum out of a furniture store. So that was kind of like my first sweet spot. I was like, this is back in 2002 when I was working at Ghaffari. I had just got licensed. This was not in Rivet. I think I did one stair in Rivet because this whole site was in like a parallelogram and it was crazy in that corner trying to get the stair in there, but everything else was in CAD and sketches, as you can see here. And we just took all of that and turned it into this museum that's still being showcased today in Detroit. That just meant so much to me, and just revitalization bug kind of hit me there. And then learning about the history and culture of Arab Americans and working for Ghaffari, learning so much about culture, I really just became very interested in this type of design. And then 2008 hit, and the Great Recession, many years later after that project. But this is at the height of me and Damon and our architecture firm, Central Design Studio. We started this project for Tech Town, which we had our office down there. And we had to design a co-working space that would actually just help entrepreneurs like ourselves. What would everything you need to do to start a business? What are some of the things you don't have cost to entries to get into, like meeting rooms and places to meet clients because you don't really have a full office, and get out of Starbucks and Panera Bread, and how do you really? So it was just a great project to work. We worked with Ghaffari, did for mechanical, electrical, plumbing, and Patrick Thompson Design for this project. And it was just, like I said, so it was like a dream come true, and able to just bring entrepreneurship and alive in a building that had that same spirit, because this is an old Albert Kahn building. There it is again, adaptive reuse and that history piece. That basically they said the Corvette was invented in this building, right? So just bringing back that whole sense of creativity and making that work in that kind of space, creating these enclave spaces where people just get away because it's pretty much a big open office space. It's kind of laid out what we call like a reverse courtyard layout. We looked at a daylighting study for it, and all of the windows on the exterior, we kept all of the desk space there and moved all of the conference room towards the center. So that those spaces, they're just looking at presentation screens and they don't care if they have light or not. But the people out in the co-working space were able to enjoy that. We reused a lot of things in this project. There were a lot of, we reused the light fixtures, the existing light fixtures, and made them into match the desks that fit over the co-working area. And it actually turned out to be a really cool adaptive reuse project. 20,000 square foot renovation. So we renovated everything except for the utility rooms that were on the floor in the bathroom. So our next space is like right at Fort Shelby in Congress. It is Space Labs Detroit, which is another co-working space, but we had 20,000 square feet in the last project. We have 5,000 square feet in this project. So we're like, how do you do it with a quarter of the space and still make it work? Was very cool. It's a co-working space that is dedicated to the AEC industry. So it's all like architects, engineers, real estate agents, and that work in this space. And it actually, made us think about like all the things that we learned with the first co-working space. And when we did our co-working spaces, there weren't a lot in Detroit at the time. WeWork was not here. Different entities like that were not in town. And use of this jewel glass box really helped to make that 5,000 square feet not look like a tight box. And it's really heavily used. And they really didn't close down during the pandemic. People were still using these because it was enough of a mix of office and open space that people kept coming in. So David Klein Art Gallery was another project that happened right after our work with Design Core Detroit and getting Detroit designated as a City of UNESCO Design. And that brought David Klein to the city of Detroit. This is his second location. We actually, this is the Carriage House building. We were just helping the owner trying to figure out how to lay out and get tenants in this building. And we ended up getting David Klein as a tenant because it's one of those buildings that is very historical on the inside and they recladded the outside. But this is the gallery. And it's really interesting. Like it was a 2-story space that had a balcony in it and a existing elevator. We had to get out of there. I almost did a before and after this one. But it really turned out nice and it's well used. And it just allows the art to be showcased in the windows. And this is Pot and Box, had an exhibit there. It just changes out every time a new art exhibit comes to this space. And this was another 5,000 square feet project. So we figured out the sauce, I think, of how much that we could get in the smallest amount of space that we could do something there. And we won small project awards for both of these, for both Space Labs and for David Klein Art Gallery. This is the beginning of Centric Design Studios' relationship with Quinn Evans. We did a series of projects together before our firm came over and became part of Quinn Evans. So this is a 139 catalog. It's called the Randolph. It's actually a Saundra hotel. We designed the building to be multifamily, and the hotel vendor came in and just rented the whole thing. That's like the developer's dream, right? So it was like, I don't have to worry about occupancy rates. I'm good. So it's this building sat abandoned above for years. People were walking past this 7-Eleven at the bottom floor and not realizing the other 10 stories above it are totally empty. So when we went in there, it was floors that looked like Mad Men and everything. And so we were just like, ended up clearing out the whole thing and turned the office building into a residential space. So this is kind of our largest project when we were working with Quinn Evans, and really it just really hooked me, and I ended up becoming great friends with Liz Nibby, who was became a mentor to me. She was the one that convinced me to submit for my fellowship, everything. Liz is just the bomb. So so this is the interior of that. I say go check out a room, rent your room there. You see how beautiful the views are looking down the city. Just a great space it turned out. So currently, I'm trying to go fast. I know Tracy said I only had a couple minutes. So I'll just spend a couple minutes on projects on the board, the things that I'm currently working on. Now that I've made the transition over to Quinn Evans, and I'm finding this, like you said, this connection between what I was talking about earlier with history and what it means to these buildings that I'm touching, that they have stories to them, and what does that mean to design? What does that mean to the community? I'm starting to, but at this point, I'm figuring it out. Like, I'm just like, it's bigger than just this building. Each building has a story. I look at the work that Quinn Evans is doing, and I was just like, this is where I need to be, right? It's great. I mean, the Michigan Central Station, that was one of the big projects when I was here at Lawrence Tech, that they said, no one else can do this as a thesis project. We're not talking about this train station building anymore. And to be working at a firm that is renovating that project and see the plans that are happening for that building and what is that doing to just the ripple effect in Corktown is just the type of work that I enjoy doing and that I'm glad to be where I am now. So as far as like in the city of Detroit, there's a number of planning studies that have happened within the city, and our firm has Quinn Evans has been a part of a lot of those planning studies. So like Jefferson Chalmers and Island View, we worked on the historical piece for both of those neighborhood framework plans. And then Warrendale and Cody Rouge is another area. We worked with the team for that neighborhood framework plan. And that one was really cool, was led by Hector Design out of Philadelphia. And the whole point of it was to use children at the centric, the focus of the urban plan, right? So that just really kind of touched back on some of the things I did in my studio. I didn't say that when I was going through the projects, but each project that we worked on, we had high school students, college students coming into our office through internships. And we had a relationship with Henry Ford Academy down the street from us when we were at Tech Town. Students would come for high schoolers would come there to do 50 hours of their senior curriculum and their senior practicum, that was part of their curriculum for graduation. To have students be introduced to architecture has been my focus through the whole practice. And when I came over to Quinn Evans, and I'm still doing that, it's just really just the place to be. So like we had a Grow Detroit Young Talent student in for that Warrendale Cody Rouge. She was a high school student. She came in for the summer, worked on that program, helped with community outreach and everything. So this has been really great. But all along, this is along Grand River, and I should have showed it on here. So this area in the big blue circle in the middle, this is Grand River, and this is an area in between the neighborhood framework plans, right? And we actually worked on another project. We're looking at a neighborhood framework plan in between these two neighborhood framework plans with Sinai Grace CDC. So these in-between spaces and revitalization, since you have these bigger nodes to both sides of them, has become a sweet spot that I've been focusing on. So I actually ran into a Detroit native, George Namdi, who's turned, art gallery owner turned developer. Ran into George and he was like, I got this idea, this gallery district. I want to create this gallery district on Grand River. And I was like, this is cool, George. I was like, this is a great idea. He's like, yeah. And he was like, I own that building, this building. I was like, oh, okay. I was like, all right. So he actually won a grant through Motor City Match. We did a layout for his, it was almost like a co-working space for galleries. So that concept is still out there because he still hasn't built it yet. But he's actually getting estimates on it now. So that was like maybe 6 years ago we did that, David. And then he's like, oh no, I still got it. I still think I'm gonna do it. So he still owns the building, but he's actually spent it to doing other things down Grand River. So he brought us on the project as architect of record with OSA Art Apartments. We're working with Volume 1, and he brought on a developer partner, Robert Hardiman, with Urge Development to do this project. And OSA is an artist that his work is wrapped around the outside of this building, and his art is an abstract version of an African hat, and that's where those colors come from. So this is under construction now. We finally got foundations in. So when I say on the boards, it's definitely still in the works. But George has plans all down Grand River. This is the rear of the building, right off an alleyway. This is right at the edge of Woodbridge, and Core City is on the other side. So it's really interesting with these two areas over here. Then we had our RFP that we went after with Woodbridge, and we looked at, which is right off of Gratiot as well. So we work with MKSK, which is down the hall from us in the LTU building downtown. And we've been doing a lot of work with them. So we looked at their old Wilbur White site, and it was an old DPS school, and Woodbridge CDC has working with the city to purchase this lot. So we looked at proposed developments for them on this, mixed use. And then they also had an old school site. We looked at repurposing that as well. But to Woodbridge is a very historical neighborhood, so that was really key for them. We did design guidelines with the neighborhood and helped them with infill and design guidelines for that. So I'm really starting to dig this neighborhood, if you can't tell. But it's like I said, it's all hooking back to the history too, because we're really starting. We have historical Sanborns that we went through this whole neighborhood and start to look at like what was there and inform the neighborhood of what's there and what's their history. And then we went after another RFP with Allied Media. They bought the Love Building, which is off of Gresham, same spot, Grand River, sorry, same spot, Grand River. And it's right across the street from the site that I just showed you with the Woodbridge site. So they're on the core city side. So we went after this RFP and it was supposed to be for one floor. And they were like, oh, you do cool co-working spaces. You know, we want you to do our office. We're gonna take the 4th floor of this building. And then we ended up doing the whole building. So we worked with Allied Media to do a master plan first, because after they said, okay, we're gonna do the whole building, I mean, what do you mean, right? So we actually teamed up with an architectural firm out of Oakland, Designing Justice, Designing Spaces with Deanna Van Buren. So we actually started working on a master plan for this whole site, and now it's going to become like a hub for nonprofits. And all of the fiduciary partners that Allied Media works with, all of those entities needed office space. So they went through a fundraising spree and raised enough money to renovate this building. So we really came up with like some cool concepts. We ended up adding skylights to the front. We ended up adding elevator tower because it had accessibility issues. There's an actually cool podcast online with Design Core, and they have a podcast that we talked about this and the importance of sustainability and accessibility to this project and to the owners of this building. Literally, the building had 2 different floor levels. On the first level, we leveled out the first floor just to make the whole building accessible. So like nobody has to go to the back of the building to get in. Like I said, I added larger windows. Look, and once we added the windows, the beautiful rooftop or like just treetops that you can see on the 3rd and 4th floors, this amazing, beautiful views of the city. This is a rendering of where we are going, and here's where it is now. It's under construction. And the windows are all in now. This is an earlier construction shot. And now we ended up looking around that building. So this is the Love Campus building here. You see number A, but now we're working with a developer that's started out looking at the historical context, like this is what was there in this neighborhood before. Now we just have the Love Building standing there, but there was an old jazz club that was here. There's all of this rich history and the density that was a part of this neighborhood before. So now we're working with the developer that's looking to develop this whole campus. At first we were going to call it the Love Campus, but now they're looking at the Transformational Justice Center. And it's actually ended up being the partner that we teamed with on the Love Building to do the master plan. It was DJDS, and now we have an architect turned developer and another client. So it's just, this has been my career journey, going through neighborhoods and meeting and talking to folks, and it's led just to project after project. I can't ask for a better career, and really enjoyed the relationships that I've been building along the way. And then I'll end off with the project that I was talking about, Noir Design Partie. The project we're doing to research and document the work of African-American architects in Michigan. And like I said, all of those statistics that I gave you at the beginning of the lecture, I learned along the way. I did not know that when I started here at Lawrence Tech in 1989 and 1983, Linda Haith was just getting her license. I didn't know that it was not really any licensed African-American women in the state of Michigan when I'm talking about being an architect. So it just really blew my mind when I'm finding this out during this research. And so we actually had the idea for the project submitted for the Knights Arts Challenge in 2016, won the Knights Arts Challenge, me and Karen Burton, and this is the whole class of that year for the cohort. We have been doing lectures, exhibits, we've been doing salon talks, and everything to start this conversation about history and architecture with African Americans. And I started to learn to end off my talks with an ask. So if our hopes is to do a book for this work. So I asked, if you see the book in the future, you buy it. And the other ask I have is, I'll end off too with NOMA Nationals conference is back in Detroit after we celebrated the 40th conference, now we're back to the 50-year anniversary of NOMA. So I always say that everything is full cycle. NOMA was founded in 1971. I was born in 1971, so a lot of great things happened that year. And I invite everybody to, it's still time to register, and we actually have a free event for the conference. It's called WikiBill, and we're actually, you can go on Eventbrite and register for that. It is on the Thursday, October 20th. It is all day, it's a virtual event. You can log in online and help us build Wikipedia pages for African-American architects that are not represented online. We're using our project Noir Design Party as a catalyst example, a pilot project of how to do this, and then it's going to be replicated across NOMA chapters across the country. And we're doing this as part of our legacy with the 50-year anniversary celebration. There are a couple of in-person events. Most of the conference is virtual. So I had asked if you have a chance to attend virtually for the NOMA conference. And that is all, guys.
I'm going to set some ground rules. So for those that are online, I don't know how well we will hear you. So if you can type any questions you might have for Saundra into the chat, then we'll go to Andrea and kind of check on those in a minute. You guys think about your questions for just a minute. I warned you this was coming, but I'm going to give you just a reprieve for a second. I'm going to ask one question to get us started, and then we'll go to some questions here from the audience. So we talked about this experience of kind of not planning to be historic or not planning to have to start things, but I've known you for a long time and I've always kind of thought of you as a starter. And so for students who maybe have something that's important to them, as the Black history element of architecture was important to you, what advice do you have for them when there's nobody out there doing what they would like to do? What advice do you have for them, like to get started and to have the courage and to get the resources to just get started on whatever it is?
So wow, that's a loaded question. So I mean, a lot of it is whatever your passion is, you will be surprised at your passion and your voice that people want to hear what it is your idea is. So I recommend that you share your idea first off with someone. Look into, non-traditional things that we don't kind of think about as architects. Look into grants, look into different things that can help you get your idea off the ground. Like the nice arts thing, I was like, oh yeah, let's apply. First time applying, and then to win, and I was just like, wait a minute, what? So I mean, it's be confident in your voice. I've had this conversation with, and I know everybody's heard of Mike Ford, the hip hop architect, right? When I first met Mike, he was like, oh, I don't want to tell anybody, they're gonna take my idea. I said, well, if you tell everybody, they're not gonna take your idea. Because it's your idea. You're out here talking about it. You're out here saying it, So he was just like, and ever since then, he's just gone, right? He's had things in his life that kind of affected him to create the hip hop architecture camp, with him losing his son. And so that internal passion, just share it with someone else. And I think it'll help you move along in your journey.
All right, guys, we're up. What do you got? Raise a hand so that we can go around the room and make sure everybody gets a turn.
So when's the movie coming out?
How you doing, babe? I don't know. I'm trying to work on the book first. I don't know.
Or maybe more importantly, who would you ideally cast as yourself?
Oh wow, I don't know. That's funny.
The tough, hard-hitting.
Right, that's a tough, hard-hitting question. I'm a big Jill Scott fan, so hey, that would be honest. I'll be honest. But see, my kids like, yeah. Put it out there. Yeah.
When they get to that point, just put that out there.
Jill Scott, Queen Latifah. I got it all.
We have questions from the room?
Do you think you guys will be working on Detroit Public Schools and everything around and hear about how this and disrepair they are?
Yes. So that was a list of stuff that I didn't put in there for presentation. So I've worked with Detroit Public Schools over the years through my careers. I've done a lot what we call in our at Quinn Evans, our living practice area and our learning practice areas are the two areas of practice that I've worked in. And I have, like I said, seeing same projects that we just done minor renovations to, and you're like, you know, it needs so much more money. I'm really interested in the work that the abandoned school buildings that the city of Detroit bought from the city, and then they now have the afterschool.com website. I'm not sure if you saw that, but they created a website for developers that are interested in buying those school buildings and renovating those. And we've done tons of projects like that at Klein Evans. I think that's the ideal thing to have, you know, have a developer come back in and put these anchors back into these neighborhoods, because all the schools are in the middle of neighborhoods, right? These are like anchors to major neighborhoods. So that's an amazing website. I could spend hours on it. I mean, they have all the data. They have floor plans you can click on. They have where the funding is for it. So I'm hoping a lot of developers are looking at that, and basically we're able to repair some of the ones that are abandoned that are in the neighborhood. So I'm definitely still interested in that. A lot of history with schools too. One of the things I don't even have in my presentation, I did a lot of work with the 20th Century Civil Rights Sites project with the Michigan SHPO office. And that was looking all across Detroit neighborhoods and identifying 30 sites that relate to civil rights history. And some of the sites that we were looking at that related to civil rights history, a couple of those were school projects. And then now we're actually looking at a site, it's not a school related site, but we're studying the neighborhood of 8 Mile, Wyoming neighborhood. And that's where the Burwood Wall is, the 8 Mile Wall, which is like the last physical redlining physical wall that's still there remaining. So we're studying that neighborhood and historical effects of that. So I think there's a lot of things in history, neighborhoods, cities that can still to be uncovered. There's so much more work to do.
That was one of the fun first times that we were working professionally together.
Was Detroit Public Schools? I forgot about that.
There
Yeah.
was a summer of work to be done, and all of us were in a warehouse in Detroit together, trying to make sure that all the teams that were out in the field were kind of attacking all the different school projects all at the same time. So it was a busy summer.
Yes, that was like 17 schools in 2 years. It's crazy.
Yeah. That was amazing. Who else has a question for Saundra?
Which of your projects have had the biggest impact on you?
I would have to, I do like I said, the Civil Rights Sites project, but other than that, I would have to say Tech Town, just because it, that co-working space, doing that really made me feel like I was an entrepreneur. I always thought of myself as an architect, but I never thought of myself as an entrepreneur. So anybody who's in school here, I would definitely say, if you could take classes on entrepreneurship, do it. They didn't have it when I was in school. I was like, hey. I went through what I call like a living MBA. I enrolled in every class that I could take at Tech Town. That's what got me down there in that community, and just getting connected with the entrepreneurship buzz that was happening coming out of the recession. I was just in the right spot at the right time. So it's more than just the project, but it is seeing people use that space afterwards. And to have my office on the 3rd floor, then come downstairs to the 1st floor, walk out and see all of these people using that space, it was just amazing. So that, I think, is the most meaningful.
I think we're going to check in with a question from online.
Yeah, Gary Jellin asks, how do you incorporate sustainable initiatives in your renovation projects?
Oh, wow, yeah. So, you know, as Carl Eckefont would say, who's a principal at Klein Evans, the most sustainable building is an existing building. You're keeping all the embodied carbon that's in that building and not taking it to a landfill, and repurposing that into something new, and understanding how you can get technologies into new technologies into an existing building is just for, to me, the most sustainable thing to do. And like I said, we've been in projects where we've taken parts of the building and reused it because it was already there. It's like, we're not putting this in the landfill either. On the Allied Media project, when we did demolition for that, we actually donated every door, everything that we could donate in the inside. I went to donations to other salvage places in the area that repurposes and reuses things. So we try to do thoughtful things like that. Like I said, when we looked at Allied Media building, we looked at sustainability and how the building's orientated, you know, down Grand River, where to put the skylights, where to sit people. We try to do it in each project that we look at. and like I said, looking at daylighting studies, looking at just everything we can look at. Wellness. That was a big thing for Allied Media. I mean, I never had a client that's like, make sure we have lactation rooms, make sure we have meditation prayer room, make sure. They were like, we are in the nonprofit space. We need a place for the hard work that we're doing. We need a place that we can recruit and keep going and making our mission forward. So wellness is the other thing that we put into every project that we do.
Keep them coming online. Anybody else in the room have something to ask Saundra?
As someone who's like created a successful practice, what were some of the challenges you faced and how did you overcome those?
I'm gonna have Damon come up here and answer that. Wow. I'm gonna have to say another thing about being down at Tech Town that helped out so much. We could leave the building at midnight. We could leave the building at 1. It was somebody else leaving the building with us. So I didn't feel bad. I felt like I was a part of something, something greater. But it was a lot of long hours. My kids can attest to that. My son probably grew up in my office. But yeah, it's a lot of hard work, but it's the most rewarding thing that I've ever done. It taught me about everything business. Like I said, living MBA is what it felt like along the way, and being in a space with like-minded entrepreneurs, and they don't have to be other architectural firms. Talk to people who have service businesses, and you'll learn from them as well of how they do things. I actually had a friend that I'm still friends with. She's from Kalamazoo, but she would drive from Kalamazoo just to take a class in Tech Town for her business. And she has a business that is, it's a pharmaceutical business, and she did clinical trials for Pfizer. So what happened with her during the recession in 2008, she got laid off from Pfizer because of the downsizing there, but she still worked with them as a consultant. So she still did clinical trials on the side. And she was like, yeah, I'm using interns. And I was like, well, how do you use interns? What do you do? So I'm taking notes, and so I take that back to our business. So I learned from other like-minded professionals. Actually, we did the same thing. Our first projects with us starting businesses came from firms that we had worked for before. So we teamed with Holly Ellis Devereaux, when Damon used to work for Harley Ellis. So we teamed with them on the DMC Cardiovascular Hospital. We teamed together with Fannie High when we were working on Detroit Public Schools. And we teamed together with Ghaffari and Associates on several projects after I started my practice. So it's networks, it's people, it's being with like-minded people, not just architects. I think that expands your vision too when you're not just around architects all the time on the website. But I think all of that kind of helps with entrepreneurship, and you're just still learning because that's the whole thing with businesses. This is a constant state of change at all times, and you're managing that change. You're managing your practice, and at the same time, you have to do design. So
I wanted to piggyback on that question. It's kind of a personal question, so you can like do what you want with it. Did you feel pressure to sell, or did you feel like I don't need to prove myself to anyone anymore? Let me move on to something different.
Wow.
How did you sell your practice?
wow. So wow, let me tell you what Damon and I did. So it's not a lot of African American owned architectural firms. So that was our main thing that we thought about and deliberated on the whole time we were talking about should Quinn Evans acquired our company, should we do this? So we had a mentor. Like I said, I always talk to people because I was like, I'm not just gonna keep this to myself. I'm gonna talk to somebody. We had a mentor that said, okay, both of you split up and you write separate lists, and then you come back together and talk about what's on your list afterwards. So talk about it together and then come back. So we both came back, and there was a lot of pros. We were like, oh, okay, we get retirement, we don't, we get we get stock ownership, we get, so the pros list was looking real good. And the one thing that both of us had on our list, it was that it will be one less minority-owned firm in the city. So we went through like deliberation on that, right? What does that mean? But one of the things that kind of really pushed me over the edge, and a lot of things that people don't know about Quinn Evans, which we talk about this all the time. I came over there like, you need to be shouting this from the rooftops. So in April 20th of 2022, Quinn Evans will be a woman over, a 200-person, six offices across the Midwest and the East Coast, and it's woman owned. My mentor was Liz Nibby, who actually, like I said, pushed me towards fellowship, really pulled me into the practice at Quinn Evans. That's what pushed me over the edge. I was just like, they are doing so many things with gender diversity, and they were interested in pushing the minority diversity envelope. So they enlarged my platform. That's how I took it. And then they were like, we wanted you to be director of diversity, equity, and inclusion too, so because we proved that we want to push this needle. And it's not any architecture firms. It's not a lot of them. It's a couple, but it's not a lot at that size. We're already 54% women in our firm. Like I said, the ownership piece is the next thing to flip over. So that was the really big tipping point for me, because I felt like they were walking the talk and not just talking it. And then the work that they were doing, like the connection to history, the projects that we actually went after the 20th Century Civil Rights Sites project together, Central Design Studio and Connect. So we were doing so much work together, and it was a good working relationship. So I was just like, it's a great offer. And when we went back and talked to our mentor, he was like, so is this a business reason, or is this a personal reason? And we were like, it's a personal reason. But we made the decision to go ahead and go to Quinn Evans.
Hi, Saundra. It's Alumni.
Oh, how you doing? With mask, I gotta tell everybody. I'm like,
First, I just want to say thank you so much for the lecture. I've seen you speak several times about other people's work, and I was really excited to hear you speak about your own work.
oh, thank you.
I was wondering if you could talk about some of the most important values that have guided you as throughout your career.
Well, I've always, like I said, always had a big mentoring heart. I always try to be honest with people, non-confrontational. But to me, I felt like I always opened the doors of our firm and our practice. I feel like I can do that same thing at Quinn Evans. I think that's important. I think there's a lot of demystifying of architecture we need to do. And I try to do that all the time and tell everybody like, hey, you can be an architect too. You know, it's just, but I think that there needs to be diverse voices at the table. So I keep trying to think about that every time. I think about it now. I don't even think about me thinking about it. I'm like, okay, who's not here? You know, how can we get kids involved? Or, you know, I've had people ask me on proposals like, oh, you know, have you worked with kids? I was like, yeah, I have kids in the office every summer. It's like, it's a program for this at this school. I said, a lot of colleges will pay you to take interns into your practice. For a small business, I was like, thank you so much. I just had to fill out paperwork. Thank you. Yes, here you go. But I just, like I said, grants and everything, you look at the sources, that opens up new avenues. But I always just kind of thought about what I needed at different points in my career, and I try to provide that to others. So definitely with students, that's how I feel. And with my clients, it's the same thing. I'm like, what would I want if this was my building? What would be important to me? And making sure I'm listening to them as well. So.
Putting together a couple of these answers, you talked about being a director of diversity. You talked about asking questions like, who's not here? Who's not in the room? You can take this in any direction you want. I know that this can be something that gets into a number of discussions, but what are the hard questions that we should be asking in our firms, in our conversations with other students? What are some of the things that you wish we could get more airtime for?
I would definitely say, I know it's easy, right? It's easy to look at the school that you went to and say, okay, this is where I'm doing my recruiting from. But I always say, look at different sources. Look at HBCUs. Look at different places of hiring, just to make the makeup of firms a little bit different. look at, well, like National Organization of Minority Architects, NOMA, we are really pushing towards helping our NOMA's chapter students get internships. So we have a NOMA fellowship program now that we're pushing for that. And Quinn Evans we had our first NOMA fellowship intern this year. We made a commitment as a firm not to stop internship during the pandemic. And I was like, that is so great. I am so happy, right? It's just like, our firm president, Larry Barr, was like, he said, we cannot he said, everybody at the AI and large firm running table said the same thing. We cannot have happen what happened to us in 2008. So we will try to figure out a way to keep the internships going and keep the pipeline going, so we will not lose professionals that we need in this career field. So just taking a minute and being authentic and being thoughtful and think about, like I said, it's like if you look up the makeup of your firm and you're saying, okay, we don't have the diversity numbers, we don't know where to go. It's the same resource like I was talking about entrepreneurship, where ask somebody else that's kind of not in your field, and how someone at GM or Ford or Chrysler doing it. What are they doing? And just talk to them and use some of those best practices and lessons learned in our own practices.
Checking back in online, anything else there? How about in the room? Right here.
I admire how you want to be as inclusive as you can in your designs. So how much is the community involved in your design process?
Oh, yeah, so a lot. So all of the neighborhood framework plans that you've seen, we had community engagement in all of those. The intern who came in for the summer, Tiana Parker, that was one of the events that she worked. She worked at an open house event we had at Brennan Pool in the Warrendale, Cody Rouge neighborhood. The things that we did with Woodbridge neighborhood, we had a series of community engagement events right in their neighborhood. One was at a church. Another one was actually bring your kid and and come have pizza at Pizza Side or Pie Side, and let's talk about what we're doing in the neighborhood. We had a community event in a pizza place. We also had coffee, donuts, and presentations. We literally brought boards to the presentations that had scale models of what could fit on that site. We let the community design their own sites and what they thought should be there. Took pictures of those and kind of voted on which ones are kind of the best ones. And then those are some of the renderings that you saw were of those block diagrams that the community put in. We've like I said, engaging the students on the Warrendale Cody Rouge was just eye-opening to me. This is online if you could find it. It is on the Warrendale Cody Rouge Neighborhood Framework Plan page that the city of Detroit has, and it's linked to a YouTube video. And they have the kids going down to the city hall, interviewing the different departments about things that are going on in their neighborhood. And the guy started talking. He was like, "Now, can you explain that in a language that I can understand?" And it was just like, just to hear him say that, it was hilarious. So that is a great video to watch. But it just really, and kids will, like you said, they will ask you whatever is on their mind, right? It's like no filter. So that was just like the most exposing experience I had, because we let them lead their own session too. They had their own session of their feedback, and they did a report back out to the community. It's just it's such rich ideas that come out of the community if you listen. And so, like I said, we've gotten some good ideas from the kids, good idea from neighbors just listening.
Going off of the neighborhood planning that you guys were doing, we, as a studio for our ID4 class, we had worked in the different neighborhoods in like Eastern Detroit, and my neighborhood that I was assigned to was Jefferson Chalmers. So
okay.
It's very interesting to see that you worked on it. And I was wondering if there was anywhere that I could look at the work that you guys have done to compare like what I had done, because I want to know like what were the thought processes and like how did you come at it versus how like
That's
many people
interesting.
in my studio came at it.
Yeah, so like for each of the neighborhood framework plans, when they complete the study, they do a big booklet report on each of the neighborhoods. So you can find that online for Jefferson Charmers. Download it like, I think it's like a 500-page PDF. I'm like, and take your whim at what you can find. It's all online. The ones that are completed, you kind of see on the City of Detroit's planning development website which ones are completed and which ones are not. And you can get that information. It's all available to the public.
Thank you.
So going back to your design process, how would building information modeling be a part of it? And how has it grown over the years?
So I am stepping away from them too. So let me see. So when we were working on Allied Media and when we were working on Tech Town, when you were in existing buildings and trying to figure out how to stretch the boundaries of this building and how you're going to, we had to add, we were creating rooftop access for Allied Media, right? So then the elevator had to go to the 5th floor. We get to, so a 5th floor is not there yet. So the 5th floor is the roof, right? And we get to the 4th floor and realize the whole floor is sloping to the back of the building. So it's like, okay, so it's a different height in the front than it is in the back. What are we gonna do about that? But yeah, like 3D laser scans and, you know, putting that in BIM and just, it helps you to figure out where to deconstruct and where to, you know, where to cut and where are the opportunities in a building and how do you sneak through technology and how do you, it really just makes it an intimate process of you looking at the building and thinking about that reuse possibility. Where can you pop out with an addition to expand some space on the 1st floor or the you know, 2nd floor, whatever you're trying to do. But that whole study of that existing building in that 3D form allows you to do that. I just think about this one, we used to do blog posts and talk about what was happening inside our studio. And Damon was like, I'm gonna do this blog post called Inches. I said, what are you talking about? He said, it's gonna be called Inches. He said, you know, just like, and he's a movie buff, from Any Given Sunday, when Al Pacino was saying, you know, it's about the inches, it's about the inches. So he was like struggling with just a project on like, I only need 2 inches here to make this, you know, to make this stair work or to make this elevator fit here or whatever it is. It's like, it's just, when you're existing projects, it's every little inch counts. It's because you're working with this existing structure and how to fit things in there. So yeah, I would definitely say, yeah, BIM in the 3D world is very important to that, and designing in 3D is important, especially when you're with existing structures. Yeah, I think it's very important. That was kind of like me going from the Arab American Museum and not really having 3D and everything that we had to do to make that work. Yeah, it would have been nice to have that fully BIM model, especially with the parallelogram site. So yeah, it would have been nice.
Anybody else? You got one in here?
So I noticed in your presentation, a lot of big recurring themes about history of the neighborhood, especially like with the campus around the Love Building. Do you just, especially like in an era where we're focusing more on gentrification of neighborhoods, do you find that having a rich knowledge of the city you come from and operate in and its history, is that a large asset to you, or is that something you kind of pick up along the way?
So I've picked it up along the way. I've had an influence on my son. He wants to be a historian. He's very interested in the Black church and what that means to neighborhoods. But yeah, I picked it up along the way. I've learned to respect things that like people have forgotten about neighborhoods, and now you really have to re-educate the next generation about the rich history that was already there. So I think it's part of our job as a professional to bring that up to the community, because like it's some people who are not originally from that neighborhood, and that's where people get upset that are in neighborhoods, that people come in like, we're just going to rename this neighborhood to this, and it's like, no, it's like there was something here before, and you need to talk and percolate that up before you try to just come in and do something new. You can do new ideas on top of history and use history as a creative resource for that. That's the way I look at it.
one. Oh, there we go.
So with all of your vast knowledge outside of your son, do you have any young folks or aspiring designers that you mentor, coach, and or sponsor?
Oh, wow. I have a lot. So this is actually one of the things that we were talking about as a firm, like, you know, I was like, when you ask the questions, right, what can you do? I was like, does anybody here follow their interns, their past interns on social media? So I do. I mean, I follow, I know what they're doing. I know, you know, where their careers are going. I feel like I got these little babies all over the country. I was like, I had one of our interns do a joint text message with me and Damon this weekend. He was like, I was just checking in to see how y'all was doing. It's my new phone number, you know, blah, blah. I was like, okay, yeah, how you doing? I constantly look, like I said, I look at it, especially with Quinn Evans, that I now have a larger platform. So I'm in an office with 24 people. Before I was in office with 10. And I've been to, out of our 6, I've been to 4 of our different offices, and definitely during the pandemic, it's just really allowed us to talk to people across all of our offices in more of a one firm approach. So it's really been interesting. I guess the last 2 years have been mentoring within the firm, but definitely looking forward to getting back to normal and getting back out in the community. But yeah, it's just like I said, it just warmed my heart. Like for when this award was announced, I look on Mike Ford's Facebook page, and he's like, Saundra Little, you know, LTU Distinguished Alumni, AKA Coach, you know, and that's what he calls me. It's like he'll call me for advice, he'll call me for whatever it is, and I like the fact that people, you know, feel like they can talk to me. So I take that as my superpower.